In her introduction to the 2019 edition of Chantal Akerman's memoir My Mother Laughs, Eileen Miles writes, Chantal Akerman refused, at least publicly, for labels lesbian and feminist in her life and her art, opting instead for the more precise, vague, relational term, daughter. Anna Silva, the eponymous figure of Akerman's 1978 film Les Rendezvous de Anna, is a filmmaker and a daughter. Lea Mazzari, herself the missing Anna of Antonioni's L'Avventura, is Anna's nameless mother. She is absent and distant, yet close and intimate. They discuss their sex lives, lying naked in bed together. It is an openness which Anna does not have with the men she sleeps with, who are cold and silent. Anna has fallen in love with a woman, although they have only spoken to each other on the phone. It is a love that she is only able to vocalize to her mother. To lie with a woman would be to abandon her. Unconscionable. Jean Dillman, of 23 Quai de Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles, is also a mother. Her son talks openly about the nature of sex, the trade she uses to pay for the food she painstakingly prepares for him. Jeanne watches a baby, but she soon tires of it. She is a good mother, and a bad mother. There are echoes of Akerman's own mother, Natalia, in her character, just as Anna Silva stands in for Akerman herself. The two films play together in quiet dialogue, with Akerman giving time and space to the moments when women are alone with their own thoughts. Conversation between mother and daughter does not flow with ease, but is disjointed with miscommunication and weighted silence. Akerman's women look at us. The framing creates a mirrored effect, whereby we see ourselves reflected in the women on screen. What they are thinking becomes what we are thinking. Cinematographer Babette Mangold described these shots as totally static because Akerman thinks beforehand about how it is going to look. Even in the stillness, especially in the stillness, we are commanded to pay attention. In 1971, Akerman left film school and went to stay in New York. 5 years later, she returned with Mangold to shoot footage of the city for her film News from Home. Akerman reads the letters from Natalia, sent during her first stay in America. We do not hear Akerman's responses, and although we learn that "Father enjoys it when I read your letters to him," the impression is of a conversation going one way. In her 1996 book Nothing Happens, Ivan Margulies argues that the layering of text over footage creates a deliberate awkwardness typical of modernist narrative cinema, in which a corporeal dimension is created, reminding the viewer of material presences through the film's hyper-realism. A woman stares at the camera with her arms folded on a street corner. A man in a yellow shirt looks uncomfortable being filmed and moves down a train carriage to get away. We are aware of Akerman as director, of her intrusive camera, and her physical presence in New York, disembodied from the voice reading the letters. There are two versions of News from Home, one with Akerman reading her mother's letters in French, and another in English, a practical decision to eschew the need for distracting subtitles. Viewed together, they form a bilingual representation of Akerman's uncertain sense of place, with one foot in America and the other in Europe. When she reads her mother's letters in French, they are her mother's words in the language she used. Spoken in English, they have been mediated into Akerman's displaced American situatedness. This form of translation is described by Jacques Derrida in The Ear of the Other as autobiography, wherein communication is ascribed meaning by the receiver rather than the sender. Akerman reads the letters not in Brussels but in New York, grounding the mother's words within the daughter's surroundings. Akerman effectively silences Natalia. When Jean Dillman receives a letter from her sister in Canada, she reads it to her son. The words are those of the sister, but the voice is Jean's. What we see and hear in Akerman's films exists on multiple planes, which continuously shift how we perceive their content. In the final shot of News from Home, Mangold places the camera on the back of a boat as it sails away from New York. Akerman's narration goes silent, with Natalia complaining that, "You never write how you're really doing." In 2015, Akerman's final film, No Home Movie, was released. She films Natalia in her apartment and shows their real conversations, each allowed their own voice. Letters are replaced by Skype calls. Akerman wrote in My Mother Laughs, "I have an apartment. It's my home. That's what other people say, my home. But I don't feel like I have a home, or an elsewhere. There's nowhere I feel at home. No place like home, perhaps, but rather a person," her mother Natalia.